Hello, everybody. Welcome to our artist talk for this week. With me today, I have a great friend and a great artist who I met in the space about a year and some time now. He's a great artist. He's actually made me reconsider some aesthetic choices or opinions that I've had before based on his experience, and also just what he does legitimately astounds me. So with me today, I have the great Roswell. Roswell, how you doing?
Yo, I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me uh, on for a talk, and obviously, as you stated, I feel like we're homies. We could say we're homies at this point. So anytime we can chop it up, it's always a good time.
Yo, hell yeah. And for those who are like, oh, who is Roswell, sir? What do you do as an artist?
Hmm. I like to say I'm just a man with a computer, but I think at that point, you know, it's kind of like I I feel like I say it as a joke to people who actually know what I do, but you know, if I were to say it to someone who doesn't know, they would be like, "Oh, okay, that's really uninteresting." But I think what I what I've come around to is just telling people like, "Yo, uh, I'm a creator of multiple things." I used to have artists using all mediums in my bio, and a lot of bios on my website and stuff, but I've dabbled in music. Um, Very early, like in my 20s and in my teen years, I was like heavy into music, um, making beats, writing songs. I had like a studio. I was running out of my crib at one point when I was like 16 for a couple years.
Wait, hold on. 16?
Yes, bro. Yeah,
No. Dude,
yeah,
everybody I talk to just drops on me shit that's like, "Hey man, I started like painting when I was 2." And it's like, "What the fuck, bro? 16? Running a
yeah,
studio.
bro.
Damn. All
I
right."
was like, basically, like my mom, everybody, like my parents are very artistic, so it's like a lot of people have a story where it's like them doing art was kind of like them rebelling because their mom wanted them to be like an accountant or something, and they're just like no. But
Mhm.
it's like my mom was the opposite. Like she wanted me to do art, she wanted me to do music, and I have like a very musical family too, so like it was just very like normal. And I remember my mom like literally like saved up a lot of money, over the course of a year to buy me my first MacBook.
Oh
And
wow.
that was probably when I was about 14. And there was this guy going to my church. His name was Dave Hummel. Shout out to Dave Hummel, but he was an engineer. He used to live in LA. He like engineered records for like Ti, like Kanye, like Young Jeezy, and like all these people who I was obviously big fans of back then.
Mhm.
And he was like just a dude at my church, and he like did the sound for my church. So he was like, "Yo, if your mom gets you this computer, I'll teach you how to do X, Y, and Z, and go crazy with it." So um, she got me the computer. He kind of showed me the ropes in a way, and then I started making beats. But I realized that music is really about collaboration, and I would have people come into my crib a lot, like every week. And my mom was always cool with it because we would just be like making music. And I think for her, it was like, yo, I'd rather be making music than like doing crazy shit outside. So, um, after like a year or a couple years of like having people like running through my crib and like in my room, and I'm like, I got the microphone on my bed or like in my closet and shit. Like one time we moved and there was like an extra bedroom, and she let me like set up a studio in that room. So from that point, it was just like, you know, 24/7, like type shit, and always had people like, pulling up, recording, making beats. I was recording myself. And that was when I was like 16.
Yeah. And then when did you transition into sort of um like visual based art instead of musical based art?
Um, so I had always been doing well. I'll put it like this: I was drawing a lot when I was a little kid, and art was always like a part of my life. And art class was literally the only class, well, and music class, the only classes that I actually um like really had a lot of fun in.
Mhm.
Um, but I always enjoyed like history and like social studies and stuff too, because that stuff was kind of interesting. Um, but uh, but I had always been doing like drawing Goku and like drawing like graffiti and like just like I was always just creative as a kid. But when I started doing music, I had to make cover art. This was like MySpace days. But
Oh, I see.
I had to make like cover art for my MySpace beats. And I found this program, I think it was called Picnic. It was like Picnik. It was basically like a super dumbed down version of Photoshop for web browser. And bro, I just started going crazy, man. Like just nonstop. Just like each time I had a song, I'd go on Picnic, I'd make the single, I'd like edit photos, do text, this, and that. Um, and so it's always kind of been like a concurrent thing, you know, music and art.
Mm.
And for the most part, I really never saw myself as a visual artist the way I do now until like, you know, maybe like 3 years ago when I started just like, you know, creating my own brands and like having to post shit for Instagram and um just doing like a lot of like freelance work. And then I just started thinking like, you know, what would I just want to make without a client's input? Because the client's input was always the worst part of the whole process. Uh so
I couldn't agree more.
yeah, bro, it's like damn, this is fun. Like this is super fun, except for like when they are telling me like what to do. Like you know what I mean?
Mm.
So I just started making my own shit, and then around a year ago is when I did my first NFT collection. But before that, I had like sold shirts. I had sold like art prints. Um, what else did I do? I had a lot of little like crackpot schemes as a kid, and like it
Mhm.
would be like you know this hat shop in the mall or something where you could get anything embroidered
Oh,
on a
like those printing shops and stuff.
yes, bro. You literally could go there and get anything embroidered on a blank new era. And I was like, okay, lit. So I like go to the hat shop, get like 7 hats made, and just like wear one to school. And people are like, oh, what's that? Blah blah blah. And then I
Nice.
like sell like some hats, like you know what I mean. So, um, but yeah, I did my first NFT collection about a year more ago, and from that, it's just been kind of like I had learned about the design world. I had learned about you know the music industry,
Mm.
and this was like my introduction into the actual art world, even beyond NFTs and crypto. And so it's like what I'm realizing is it's a lot of positioning, and it's a
Mhm.
lot of like you know organizing uh, your like creative thoughts and like putting things in certain buckets and like you know it's like this has kind of been like my year to like you know really learn about how the actual art world works outside of me just making you know some shit for me and my homies. So
And so, while you were doing that, when did you start sort of working for? Um, I think is it considered like a label that you work for and producing like the art there and stuff, or?
yeah. So that I've probably been working for Warner for like a little over 2 years. So
Okay.
This is literally like the third job I've ever had in my life. Um, and I was basically unemployed for a long time, just doing freelance work and music. And then that's when I like moved to LA and did all that stuff.
Let's see.
Um, but yeah, I've been working for Warner for about 2 years, and I mean, it's been like super super fun. Learned a lot, and that's kind of like my like introduction into like how products are really made. Like seeing something go from a design to a physical, tangible thing. Like there's so much that goes into it. So like I really wanted that experience as well because a lot of my art, has to do with a lot of physical products like ready-made stuff and
Mhm.
yeah, it's like really really important to me. But it's cool because I get to work with really dope artists, legacy artists, and I always get to like you know go out one day and then someone's wearing a shirt that I designed for like Grateful Dead and like American Eagle, and it was like, oh, I designed a shirt. Um, so yeah, it's been fun.
Well, I mean, I mean, it's great, right? It's like, I mean, personally, I like to believe that one of the best signs of excellence and success, right, isn't gloated. It's the silent one, right, where it's like you're walking and it's like, well, I always use this I always use this description, but like it's very big in anime. Like the tournament fighter that you just find out is the tournament owner, but he just fights for fun because he like.
Yeah.
But it's like he's like the old humble man that it's like, oh, you want to fight me? Okay, and the next thing you know is like, oh, you're fighting with the archdemon or some shit. You're like, oh, it's
Uh,
like right, and
he
it's
just
like
starts like flying and shit.
yeah, it's like in that sense where it's like it's you can tell somebody's is successful at what they do as well, but like by the confidence they have in their work and also just like, oh, I'm walking around, I made that shirt, but you don't feel like the need to tell like, hey, I made that shirt. Like a lot of artists feel like, this is mine, look what I made, this is mine, right? And
Yeah.
um to me like, that's very important for an artist because it means that you actually care about the craft and it's growing and like
Oh
it's
yeah.
growing within you. And then the other thing that I noticed is as you were talking about music, this is a little bit funny actually. Your work is a bit like your artistic work has a very musical feel to it. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's just the way it sort of pops and the color usage. I've talked to you before in DMs and on spaces about your color usage and how smooth, like you have very nice gradients, but then the certain pop that I'm seeing and the certain patterns that I'm seeing, I don't. It's like it feels somewhat musical to me. It's very cheery in that sense, and when I think of colors that are cheery, I also imagine music, at least to me.
Oh nah. I think it's definitely like it's something I can't control and it's always gonna like show in a way. But it's like visual art and music are so so similar, man. It's like the same thing. The major difference I'd say is like you can look at something visually and you can immediately understand it.
Mm.
As where a song, like there's no way to do that. Like it forces you to like experience it through time and it changes from minute to minute. So it's like that's the only like real major difference, but literally everything else there's an equivalent. Like and there are I feel like we may have talked about this before, but like there are like terms that are interchangeable, like like you could say like a design looks loud, which is a music term, or
Mhm.
you could say a sound, sounds bright or sounds dark, which is a visual term. So it's like, and also with the whole like, the art looking musical, it's like lines have rhythm, like
Sure.
and line weight, is a big
Exactly.
thing too. And it's like I can see the parallels of like, a really nice, like hard hitting set of drums and like some really clean line work, or like And you know, a lot of people were like, "Oh, I have synesthesia and I see the sounds." Like, and I'm just like, "Yeah, okay, man. Like, yeah, me too, sure." Like, and I don't know how much of that shit I really believe in, but yeah, people are like super extra with that. But
Well, absolutely. Oh, it's crazy. I realized I, I trust people who say they have synesthesia when their work looks fucking weird. Well, not weird, but it looks a lot lesser than you expect. Because a lot of the synesthesia art that I've seen, eh, at least the ones that's verified synesthesia, is like very noisy and gradient. It's not like shapes or anything, right?
yeah,
And
totally.
and the one and to oh,
Oh wait, my bad.
it's all good. Um, I remember I to your point of art and sort of like visual art and music going hand in hand. I remember I'll never sort of forget this. I was in art school with some friends, and arts. We were trying to be art students. Like, oh, what music do you listen to? And we got on the topic of classical music, um, and it just happened that all of us in the room like really like classical music to some extent. I grew up my mom playing that shit, and
Mhm.
so my friend goes like, "Oh, here, have you heard of Stravinsky?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "All right, put on the I think it's called Flight Bird, something like
Yeah,
that."
yeah.
And he's just like, "Dude, just close your eyes." And I closed my eyes, and when it's like there's that moment where it's like because of the title of the bird, right? I'm imagining a bird, but it just like it was literal, like, and I was envisioning like an actual animated like flight with danger and like Disney fire and
Are you
shit.
talking about the Bumblebee song?
Oh no, no, I'll send it to you after. It's like the best way to describe it is like it's an adventure. Like it's literally just like it sort of describes I think tries to symbolize um the adventure of a bird going through something. And it
Mm,
just like at points like yeah to the visual like to the point of like visual aids helping music at points it feels like very fiery like this bird is flying through like lava or something like someone's gonna fucking burn it, right? And then
hmm.
it ends with like bliss, right, where it's like you envision the bird is flying in the sky, like blue skies, clouds, little chirp here, and it just to that point it's like they art and music like visual art and music go hand in hand. Like you would never catch an artist. It would freak me out if you catch an artist who's not listening to music. you know
Oh yeah, totally. And I feel like honestly when I'm like working on stuff on my computer, like I'll always like go to like throw on a documentary or something first, but I always just end up listening to it and I never end up watching it. And then when I say, okay, fuck this, I'm just gonna be like a normal person and just play some music, I like can actually focus on what I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean? And it's something that like I have to kind of like force myself to like, hey, like don't cut the TV on right now. Just listen to music and like get this work done. Um, but whenever I do it, it makes so much sense and it like activates that part of my brain that's like itching for something else to do while I'm doing something else. If that makes sense.
oh I makes absolute sense. I struggle with that exact same thing because I like noise to be around me.
Yeah.
But when I put music on, you get into that flow state immediately because it's for your own enjoyment. You don't have to listen to it. It's just like you tune into it. It's like one here or there when you're like mixing your colors or whatever. The rest is just like focus on your work. And I remember, which I personally need to do this. My art teacher in grade 9 and 10 used to say, listen to music without lyrics. Like you can, as an artist, you can listen to music with lyrics, but if it's a music that you liked too much, you might
Yeah.
get into the song at some point instead of the art. So listen to he would be like listen to and that's how I personally got into jazz. Where he's like listen to jazz or like classical music, as cheesy as that sounds, but it's you enter that flow state with like music really aids in that flow state. You know.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I love like ambient music and like Brian Eno and like what's my guy's name? Robert Fripp. Like really like ambient stuff or just
Mhm.
really like beautiful, you know, like piano music. Also, not ashamed, bro. Uh Lo-fi beats to study to. Kind of
Dude,
hits different, you know.
absolutely. Oh,
It's
dude.
like I feel like they kind of like they incorporated they found a really good way to incorporate texture and rhythm in an ambient format. And it's like a lot of very simple melodies, but it's just so like stylistic that like it just brings you in emotionally on like the music and the instruments.
I was actually thinking about this because I'm a big fan of lo-fi as well, and I've been a fan for like years before I even came to Canada. Um, but in university, I took a hip hop class, believe it or not, which I also failed, but because I didn't, I
Bro,
decided, dude, I decided not to go to the final exam. I was going through a rough time.
what is a hip hop class?
It was just a teacher, and
Crazy.
it was a white teacher, which is also hilarious. And we went through the history of hip hop from 1979, like a DJ Cool Herc and Grand Wizard Theodore, up till sort of modern hip hop. Just like analyzing themes, how it evolved,
Yeah,
like Ghetto Boys. It was a bit hilarious, but I remember he was like talking about the concept of the butter, right? Where it's like hip
yeah.
hop sort of started as picking out the best parts of songs to get people to dance to, so that when they would drive up to their shows or to their little like sort of party, everybody
Mhm,
would dance, and then the DJ would sort of speak, and then rapping started with MCs and all that jazz. But
mhm.
with lo-fi, I think it's sort of like the evolved set of that, where it's just like kids really like that aspect, the butter of like really catchy beats. And then we grew up on anime, so like nothing hits like a simple like nostalgic anime quote, that just hits you.
Facts.
And then right. And then it just like
Facts.
right. It's like, oh, is that Spike Spiegel? Like, oh shit, I remember my childhood. And then you just get lost in the beat, and it's very simple. It's also repetitiveness helps with art, because you don't have to, it's not too exciting. Again, you just get into it. And so
Definitely. Definitely.
one thing I'm really curious about, one thing, because it's
Hmm.
surprising to me that you say, like, you've been drawing since you were a child, but you sort of got into art fully 3 years ago. But your artistic views seem to be that of somebody, like, if I was talking to you and I didn't know who you were, I would have assumed that you had a BFA, legitimate. I'm not. That's not even a lie, because it's like I remember, like, what is it? We would talk, and me and you would like like, we like Warhol, but we would shit on Warhol. And like, shitting on Warhol is like, not a lot of people do that unless they go through a BFA, because Warhol, you get to find out what Warhol does, and it's like, okay, or like Picasso in that sense. But it just,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
your views, I was like, damn. So like, have you been like studying this, or like, are you just like reading on your own time, like art theory and art history, or like, how'd you gain this knowledge, sir?
Dude, I'm just like very, very obsessive, kind of like personality type.
Mm.
And like I said, like while I'm doing something, I always will try to do something else because if I don't, I feel weird. And a lot of times, the most interesting thing is just like any video about any artist on YouTube. Like, I don't even care what it is. I don't even care what kind of art it is. I will literally just type in art history, go to like page 81 and just pick a video. It's better if it's like a video that's like 30 minutes or longer. Cause then I'm like,
Mm.
oh yeah, this is gonna be like some substantial information. But dude, I just love hearing about and learning about artists from other periods in time because I feel like they're similarly minded people
Mm.
um as me and like my friends now. So it's like I feel like I can learn, from their mistakes and I can learn from their successes and I'll never just straight up be like, you know, like if there's a big artist that
Mm.
everybody like doesn't like, I try to find out why and I try to find out what's likable. And then if there's a big artist that everybody does like, I try to like kind of do the opposite. So I'm like, I don't want to be biased on anything, like, and I don't want to like only have a surface level understanding. Like I watched a video about uh Degi, um
Iggy,
or Degas. I
the
can't remember
guy
his name.
Dejas,
Dude, he was like
the ballerinas.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Edgar Degas. Pretty sure.
And yeah, bro, it was just like super enlightening. Like you're learning about like these people's lives. And it's funny because like, a lot of these people were like severely like mentally ill. And like a lot of them are like, making like all these paintings and shit because it's the only thing that they could do. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's the only thing that they were good at. It's like their entire life is falling apart. Um, but they can paint the shit out of something. And I'm like, it's almost like the same amount of like utilitarianism as like, you know, like a hammer is good at hammering things. Like that's literally it. But it's really good at it. Like I don't think people are like that anymore. So that's interesting to me as well. Like dedicating your life to one thing, because like I'm not like that. Like I'm always like doing different weird shit, and I can't keep focused on one thing really. But kind of like zoning in on those people that only do the one thing, and then finding out like what the important thing is in their process that they've learned from doing the one thing. It's almost like cheating on off someone else's homework or something. Like, and I'm like, okay, I see it. Warhol, he had that thing going on. That's cool. Like, um, and this dude over here, he had this thing going on, and like William de Kooning, like, he did these shapes in a certain way.
Oh,
Like,
I don't like that dude at all.
nah, I feel you. Um, but yeah, like, or even like, dude, people love to hate on Rothko, and I'm like, I'm looking into like Rothko a lot, and like him like building chapels, and like, dude, it's just like very, very interesting to me. So like I think some people like it's like scratch the same part of my brain that like
Mhm.
would normally like want to like learn about like the Kardashians or something like that. Because I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like
Okay.
people like what they like, and I think it's all like, whatever, like do your thing. But
I
it's like
mean,
it's like my tabloids, like in a way.
no, I mean that's absolutely fair. And like, funny enough, you're the person who changed my opinion on Rothko, because I didn't like his paintings until you sent that picture of a gallery, or like a museum exhibit, which like
Dude,
his painting sort of looked oppressive, but I'm a person who likes very oppressive shit, and so I was like, "Oh, this is dark. These dark, huge canvases look amazing in this like large concrete pillared room." I'm pretty sure. I think it was a pillar, like concrete shape.
dude, yes, yes, yes. Like so sick and just like heavy shit. And that dude was like very depressed, like very like, he committed suicide. So it's like those when you see those works and you have to think about like kind of like the balls that it took to do that, and to be
Mhm.
like, do it for a pretty long time. Like, and I think oftentimes as well, like I'm not gonna say I don't like um well, I'll put it like this.
Mhm.
There's a lot of art, and I feel like we've talked about this before, but there's a lot of art that I feel like never, or it doesn't transcend the medium for me, which in this
Mhm.
case would be canvas, right? So there's a lot of art or artists that are like, okay, I want to paint, and they go grab a canvas, and then it's like, okay, dope, that's a painting on a canvas, like, and it's like dope as fuck too. Like, don't get it twisted, like, but I think there's a certain thing with like a Rothko, especially like the
Mhm.
really big ones, where it's like I'm no longer even just looking at a canvas. Like this is just like a like projection of like emotions and color, and
Mhm.
like very, very like base like sentient organism shit. Like, you know what I mean? And like he's got the windows and like even the colors that he's pairing. I love when people use red with blues. Like I love when
Mm,
people use purples and reds. I love when people use like neutrals. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I just feel like his color palette is like so tasteful and it's like at such a high level. Like, um, and yeah, I love Rothko, man. Like, it's the goat. But see, I want to like learn. Like, I learn about
mm.
him to like, figure out, you know, why he made these decisions, and also what can I do to not be what can I do to not commit suicide? You know what I mean? And like create and like be inspired, but I'm like, I don't have to kill myself. Like,
Oh, I agree. It's uh, well, it's like mental health is like one whole part of art because are you familiar with the concept of melancholia?
yes.
And so there is this painting by Albert Albert Dürer. Um, he's essentially a Dutch. Do you know who that is?
What's his name?
Al, Here, I'm gonna Google Albert Dürer so I don't fuck it up. I'm gonna send it to you on Discord.
Okay, word.
He's essentially, I think, a Dutch painter, um, or German painter, excuse me. And he's
Mhm.
essentially, I personally like his paintings are very nice, but I like his sort of carvings, his wood prints, I guess what you call them,
Mm,
with
yeah,
etching and stuff. And he's made a painting called Melancholia in sort of one of, it's not one of, I think it might be one of the oldest representation of like the sad artist pursuing like perfection and never achieving it in some sense, or at least that was
yeah,
it back then. But it's like the sort of the sad artist notion is it goes back for a very long time, and it's something that a lot of artists struggle with, right? Like Francis Bacon is another example of a dude who just got like his mental health just fucked him completely. And also, right, like people would argue he's the one. I mean, I don't think it's arguable. I think that's actual fact that he's the one that pushed his own boyfriend to suicide and then made three paintings about it. And like they're disturbing paintings if you look at them, but like they're also very nice. And you look at them and you have to, like, I'm a fan of those type of works. So
yeah,
you look at them, but you also have to be aware of like the if Dre was here, Andreas, for those who are listening, he would be like the aura of the work, right? That sense of like you can feel what the work, the emotion, like you were saying, like it has emotion, but because it has emotion, that emotion has a tendency to come on to you as well. And so you as an artist have to be aware of sort of that and also the emotions you're putting into work in that sense.
nah, 100%, dude. That's accurate because it's like I think you know, there's not much we can really like say defined what the purpose of life is. But
Mm,
honestly, I can probably say with a degree of certainty that um, we should probably feel good. You know, like
I agree.
we should probably feel good, and we should do whatever we can to prolong that long term feeling good, as some would call it, joy. Um, but I don't think that means that you have to be sad to make sad art. Like, um, it's like Joaquin Phoenix. Like he was talking about. They were asking like if playing the Joker was like this big like mental weight on him because actors before had played the Joker and like you know uh like struggled like mentally afterwards because they got so into the role.
Mm.
He was just like, nah, man. Like I'm an actor. Like
I'm
you know,
chilling.
like it's like yeah, bro. Like that's just I'm supposed to act. I'm not literally supposed to like be the Joker. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
but you definitely have to like because a lot of my work is very dark as well. But I think the darker elements of my work are more so like um represented in a way that it's not there to be scary.
Mm.
It's there for acceptance and like depicting like, I have a lot of depictions of like death or like the
Mhm.
Grim Reaper or like, you know, this kind of like character that's like in the universal canon of characters. And I feel like I do it a lot because it's more so just like accepting the inevitability of it all. And, or like not, being so like afraid of this that it paralyzes you to the point where like you stop living, like, because it's just a part of it all. So it's like, um, you really like can't run from those things. And I feel like the more that you just accept it, it's cool because ultimately, like, it's not like you, in my opinion, like, it's not like you have ownership of your life in a way. It's like you're just the one experiencing it. Um, and so in that way, I feel like you can become a friend with death.
Mhm.
Then it just becomes like, you know, well, let me get my mind right. Like, let me do everything I want to do, and let me like actually, you know, go 100% in whatever it is I'm doing because, I've accepted this inevitability, and it's not even like a sad thing. It would be kind of sad to live for like 5,000 years. Like that kind of would be sad. Like,
It
and to
would
like
be
have some, like, bro, people can barely bear the trauma of like one lifetime, bro.
true. True.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
I'm sorry, I like rambled on there,
no,
but
no, no, it's all good. That's an important point too. Because funny enough, I had a teacher, an art history teacher, who brought it was like a weird quote where it was like this artist. Her quote was like, "I believe people should make beautiful and pretty art, or like happy art."
hmm
Um, And it's like I'm the type of person who functions in enjoying happy things. I do enjoy my horror, my B grade horror movies, right? My gory horror movies. I enjoy my heavy metal and my death metal and that, but also, I have a cat and I like flowers and shit. And I remember I raised my hand in class and I was like, well, that seems like a weird sort of argument to make because a person like me enjoys depicting sort of dark material because then me knowing this dark stuff exists also allows me to appreciate some of the good stuff that exists. Like, you know,
yeah,
and it's like,
100%.
right? And it's like, I mean, it sort of works out really nice if you're in a museum that has two paintings that are complete opposite right next to each other because you get to understand because the National Gallery of Canada had a Francis Bacon painting, one of his Pope iterations, and right
Mhm.
next to it is some really nice landscapes. And you could like go look at the Pope, and it's like I would literally go into the museum, go look for that, and go stare at it for a little bit, and then just go and look at the nice pictures, and just
Yeah,
enjoy.
dude, I think that's beautiful because I mean, ultimately, like, I think most people are like you in that sense, where like you're not just all dark and you're not just all light. Like, you have the capacity of the entire spectrum of emotions and things and, energies that you can carry. So I kind of like, I like to show, I like to show like a good spectrum in a lot of my works, whether it's
Mhm.
like, a a skeleton that's like dancing like with a pink cat or something like that. It's like that to me. It's like the like full range of like how you can feel on any given day. Like, and also it's like don't take shit so seriously. But like I love horror as well.
Mhm.
But I also love like Ghibli movies and Pixar movies and like
Yes, sir.
I just think like this weird thing happened in society where like everyone got pushed into uh these like different underground like sects of
Mhm.
people to where like if you were in school in the 90s or something, and this is just what I've drawn from like watching 90s movies, but because I was barely in school in the '90s, but it's like either you were a goth kid, and if you were a
Mm.
goth kid, you were doing the goth shit, or you were like with the cheerleaders, and like if
Yeah.
you were doing all that shit, like you know, you weren't doing any of the goth shit. But it's like now we have like, you know, like the emo goth, uh like Hello Kitty, like like whole like thing. And like that's our modern thing of like all these like different like, weird countercultures kind of like merging and spawning other weird countercultures, or it's kind of like the Miladies, like
Yeah, it's like that.
it's like really dark. I don't know if we could talk about Miladies, but it's like really dark shit, but like with the cute like girl, and like, or it's like the subject matter is like very, very like, heavy
Yeah.
and like deep, and like, so that kind of stuff I think is like, I don't know, like really it reads as a more accurate depiction of society, because I really love when art depicts society in an accurate way
Mhm.
of its time. You know what I mean?
No, it really does. It's you reminded me of Baby Metal. Have you ever heard of that? It's the
Yes,
Japanese,
yes.
and it's like that is one of. I mean, it's still weird to me, but it's gone softer on my ears because like it doesn't bother me as much when I hear it, and it's like if it's on top of an anime, it bangs, bro. I'm not gonna lie. If you
Dude,
put Baby Metal on top of an anime, I am there.
it goes so crazy, bro.
It does,
It
and
goes crazy.
and it's the one. It's funny. The interesting thing to me that I'm really happy about this like sort of whole like evolution is I used to have a conversation with this art student, and he had I remember he had his portfolio at one time, and he's our teachers always demanded that we do physical work. So if you were painting oil or acrylic paints, right, like if you were in painting class, like you would not get away with fucking digital, like fuck no, right?
Yeah.
And this kid opens up his portfolio, and I'm just like, holy fucking shit, this kid's like like he's an illustrator, like he's an actual digital illustrator.
Hmm.
And like the teachers are like, but like that's not fine art, that's not. And like you could see the kid somewhat get visibly upset. It's like, come on now, like really, like he's really good at painting, he outpaints half the fucking class.
Yeah.
uh, and then I enter the space, and then I'm seeing, Japanese kids in who are coming up now, like painting, anime inspired works, but they're very fine art in this weird way, if we were using fine art, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
and it, and it's like that sort of little, I wouldn't call it niche, because it makes sense that it's evolving based on how we're growing up, right? But
Yeah.
it's like how that's evolving, where it's like, okay, we're hybridizing anime with painterly, or like Gans, right? Or like some weird, it's like an anime girl with like some weird dark stuff, or like some very philosophically deep stuff.
Or
It's
how many times have you seen like that the anime girl with like the metal text? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, it's or just, I mean, you probably been on Tumblr. You remember like depression Tumblr? Have you ever been on there?
All day, bro.
Right? It's like, like how many anime stills did we see with like yellow quotes? And we just like, share that like on Tumblr, like pin it. Like my Tumblr account, like you would come in, there would be like an audio player, and it
Yeah.
would play straight metal, and my cursor. I was so fucking depressed, I turned my cursor into a fucking cigarette. And it's like you just scroll. It was like pure death metal and like
Is the page?
anime. I don't even know. I haven't been on there in 4 years, but it's like it's pure depression shit. Like skins, stills, like that the TV show Skins,
Yeah.
like just stills from that, bro. I was just like, I nobody loves me. It was wild.
This is funny. Do you think it was like a teen angst thing, or you think you were just like down bad at that time in your life?
It was a mixture of both. Like, if you grow up in a third world country, it's just like I realized a lot of induced like mental illness is because you're aware that you're aware from the start that there is no future. Like
Yeah.
you're immediately aware that it's like, oh, holy fuck, there are so many blocks and hurdles that I have to jump in
Mm,
comparison that it just immediately just upsets you. It's like it weighs on you because it's like you wake up every day and it's like, oh, I know I'm gonna go to university, but I'm gonna get a shit job anyways. And it's like you
yeah.
go out, right? Like the weirdest thing is like you would drive in the street and you would meet like taxi drivers and you would ask them like, "What's your degree?" And it's like, business degree. Oh shit, what are you doing driving a taxi? You can't find a job. It's like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Now,
it's just
yeah, I kind of like I'd never had the expectation
mm,
put on me in that sense where like when I was in school, man, I never really was thinking about the future. And I
listen.
really didn't know what was gonna happen, man. Like everything was just so weird day to day that I'm like I remember getting ready to graduate high school, which I finished online, by the way,
Wow.
because yeah, because I got expelled from
Oh
my high school.
shit. Wait, what did you do, bro?
Dude, man, I was just a rowdy, like I would like get in a lot of fights and like
Damn.
as a kid, man, like, and like there was a lot of drama in my household, like between my parents.
That's it.
So like that whole weird thing too, and it's just like I remember like having to like go to counseling for like anger management and shit like that. Like, but dude, I kind of just one day I was just like, I'm just gonna be a positive person. I literally told myself that. I say, yo, I'm gonna be a positive person. Like, I'm not gonna let shit get to me anymore. And dude, literally, like, I feel like now today I'm like a completely different person. Like, you know, 13 years later,
Mhm.
after kind of like that epiphany of like, oh wait, I can just choose to be however I want to be, and like, I don't have to like, you know, onboard emotional shit from my parents if I don't want to. I don't have to like, be this certain way or like respond to everything. Like, I can just be a chill person. Like I could just be chill. So, um, but yeah, I never thought about going to college.
Mhm.
After I graduated, I kind of briefly thought about it, but then my parents were like, "If you go to college, like we can't pay for it," and and I was just
Oh.
like, "Okay, so I'm probably not gonna go to college." And then I was just so busy, like doing the studio thing,
Mhm.
and then I was working at another studio, and I was like, I was already like running my own freelance design business, like fully. I'm talking like clients. Probably had
Nice.
over like from the age of like 17 maybe to like 23. I probably had over 100 clients. Was doing at least uh,
Damn.
3 projects every month. And I also used to work for Apple. That was my second job ever, um, part time. So I was just
God
always doing
damn.
shit, but I never like. I think the goal though at that time was like I'm trying to get signed.
Mhm.
And when my homie got signed, and I started like, I was like producing all his music.
Mhm.
I was doing all his artwork. Was living in the middle of Hollywood, and then I signed my deal. This was like kind of like early 20s.
Mhm.
It was like I didn't know what the fuck was gonna happen. Like I really had no expectation. But I was just like, yo, I just know that if I make uh really like um I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this because I don't just want to say like good art, but if I make
Mhm.
like things that emotionally resonate with other people,
Mhm.
it will attract that to me more, and I'll be able to do it more. And I also hate using the word attract and like manifestation and shit, but because I'm just not an extra person. But with that being said, it's definitely true. And I it was just like, yo, I never had like a 5 year plan, 7 year plan, 10 year plan. It was just like, yo, I'm doing this week.
Mhm.
I'm gonna make it as dope as it can possibly be, and then I'm gonna do something else next week. And I'm gonna have good vibes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I never really had the back to your earlier point, I never really had like the weight or pressure of like going to a university or like, you know, going to college or like thinking about, I hope I can get a job.
Mhm.
Um, because it wasn't put upon me, and I think I was like privileged in a sense where like it's not like we had hella bread growing up, but
Mhm.
my mom gave me a lot of freedom um to do what I wanted to do. So I had that as a privilege definitely, and it was never like you need to go to college, you need to do this, you need to get this degree um situation.
I mean, I that's actually, I would say that that pressure not being added to you is far more helpful, like you said, than having it put on you. Because both my parents have their like doctorates and shit, PhD, like full everything, and so my whole family is like, "Hey, are you gonna do this?" And then I went the art route, and then everybody was like, "Oh shit." Like, who you like? My mom was like, "Are you not gonna go? Are you like? Don't you want?" Because at some point, my parents sent me to so many psychologists because I had some anger management issues, but that I was like, I might be into psychology, and my mom got really excited, and she was like, "Ooh, this kid's gonna make some money." And then high school, grade 11 came, and my mom was like, "You're gonna do IB, which is like it's called International Baccalaureate, and it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like best way to describe it is like a hyperloop into an American or an abroad university. Like
Mm-hmm.
legitimately, it just guarantees acceptance no matter what the fucking grade is. Because like I got accepted into my universities before before my final grades came out, but it was like it's like university level courses, but it's annoying. My year that did full IB worldwide, because all of them get the same exam worldwide. The physics Reddit on that shit went fucking crazy because apparently that year's exam was hard as shit. Um,
Yeah.
but what is it? My decision came down to psychology and art being on the same time, on the same like hour, and whoever decided just gave me art classes, and then I was like, all right, I guess I'm sticking with this art thing. Um, and then I got
Oh,
my
so
BF.
they decided for you.
Well, yeah, I was like sign up for your. It was like a sign up for an extra class, and I had chosen
Okay.
like, what's your first choice? And I was like, art. Second choice, it was IB physics, and my hope was I would just get both. Um,
That's
and I
lit.
just yeah, and I was just like, I got the art one. It was essentially uh, an hour, and I also finagled my way into like by grade 12, I had three art classes throughout the whole year. And
Mm.
so it's like I took photography, 2D drawing, and then I had IB art for 2 years. And like I just like I'm gonna fucking do this. And then I got my BFA, and I was like, fuck this NFTs, like crypto art, because like
Bro, when you like can like perceive like the wave coming, and you can like literally stand there and see it, you got to do something. Like you have to do it. You have to
absolutely,
like
absolutely, and like this goes to your point because you've sort of been operating what I would classify outside of the box already, right? You decided to like not go to college. You've been freelancing since you're 16, right? Running your own music studio. So you've been doing your own thing, and here comes this tech, right? That is just, it draws in a lot of people. It's also built on doing your own thing, and it's, I mean, I would say there's like a lot of liberation in the space, but also it just, you're able to spot it because you've been able to spot things before, right? Like you spotted, oh, I can make money off of this art thing. Oh, here I am, right? And then you sense the NFT thing. You're like, oh, I can make this is a new way up. of how I can translate my.
Dude, what I love about it is it kind of like, because like I feel like that whole, if you take, if you kind of take like the fine art route, right?
Mhm,
This is like, pre crypto art and everything.
mhm,
And you want that experience as an artist selling works, showing it at galleries, and doing that whole thing. There's like a very kind of like, and this is just me from the outside looking in,
mhm,
assuming from what I've gathered, but it seems that there's a very like uh systematic way you have to go about it, and you have to, I feel like it's kind of similar to the music industry where like, yeah, you can
mhm.
be good at something, but you also have to play ball. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And
It's
like it brought that kind of experience, and it kind of like refined it in a way and brought it to like a different group of people where now you don't just have, like let's say you live in like a medium sized city and you have like a couple galleries. There's probably like what, maybe 20 people there seriously collecting art that may
mhm,
be involved with those galleries and have relationships with the curators and things like that. Um, and so you have these 20 people, and it's like if you live in that city, you can't afford to go anywhere else. They have to like your art. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, or
true.
somebody there has to like it. And it's somebody, it has to be a collector that collects art. But it's like now anyone can be a collector. It's like a lot of times people just look at it from the artist perspective of like, yeah,
Mhm,
anyone can mint art. But what's really crazy to me is anyone can collect it. So it's like you now have these people who are used to being consumers,
mhm,
and they're now becoming art collectors. And that is honestly like what's kind of like a bigger shift that I've noticed within like NFTs and like crypto art specifically is like you have this whole new market of like people that are buying art, and it's like, you know it's not people with like a top hat and a monocle.
mhm.
It's like people who are like, like tapped into like these weird like subcultures of like, you know corners of the internet. So if you're speaking in that language, they'll understand it. And so it's now kind of like can become a situation where it doesn't really matter where you are, bro. Like, and it doesn't really matter, all these things can help you, but you can just speak the language that you speak. Um, and there are people out there actively looking for things to collect, which I really don't think that's been the case for the last 60 years, like on this scale. Like, even if it's, and it's like so many different price points. So if you're an artist, you
Mhm,
don't have to spend 6 months working on, uh, six like masterworks or some shit, like for a gallery. You can like do one piece, a
mhm.
thousand edition, lower price point, and anyone can get it if they want it. You know what I mean? Or you can do 25 pieces with auctions. You can do all that shit, and I've never had access to any of that stuff. So I think it's like the novelty of that is like really, really dope to me.
Oh, it is. And like the funny thing is, like the fine art world, if you go through the education system, it doesn't teach you anything about the actual fine art world,
Yeah.
right? Like the best thing you'll get, and this might vary from institution to institution, but the best thing you'll get is like, hey, save your receipts for taxes, have a website, don't send, your, don't send, don't post like your high res photos, um, and like write good proposals. And you're like, oh, gee, thanks. It's like apply to like it's like you have a teacher's like not a lot of artists apply to art competitions. It's like why the fuck would I apply to a fucking art competition for like making a medical card for like medicine? Like the fuck,
Yeah,
where,
bro.
right?
Nah,
And like the weirdest thing that happened, I remember I was having a conversation with the painting professor, and I was asking about the the officialness, if you will, of art shows,
yeah,
right? Because like I was just talking, I was like, um, oh, our grad show was coming, our graduation show, and I was like. He was like, "Oh, you can put that already on your CV," and I was like, "Hold on, I can put that show on my CV." He's like, "Yeah, it's an official show." I was like, wait, what makes it official? Like, he's like, oh, it's on the university. And I was like, wait, really? Just because it's on the university makes it official? Like, is that the game? Really?
yeah,
I,
because it happened.
yeah, it's just 'cause it's just like a Happen University, bro. It's like, oh, it's the fine art. It's an official show. I was like, oh, okay, so
Yeah,
this
it
is.
occurred.
And it's like
It,
mine got canceled. Like my shit got canceled, and they were like, still
oh no
keep it on
way!
there. Yeah, because COVID. But they were like, keep it on
Oh,
there. Because like we had a virtual exhibition, and I was like, "Are you fucking?" Because like it was just like one of those things. It was like, okay, so the legality of shows doesn't make any fucking sense. You have to, like you said, like you have to like play ball with so many gallerists. You have to give again like 50% of your fucking shit to the gallery. Um, and the other thing that we have in the space is like style locking or type locking, right? Where people jump on you because one painting pops off and then you get 10 dudes, or not dudes, like 10 collectors who want the same style,
yeah,
right? And they don't want anything else, and then by the time you finish the third painting, two have backed out because it's taking too long. You're like, oh fuck. And then your gallery is not going to do anything except sell what sells, and your style is what's currently selling, not what you want to work on. And so you just get locked into that. And a lot of artists in the fine art world become unhappy because like they're not painting or doing what they want, as opposed to the space where you can literally just fire up a collection, call it fucking around studies or whatever, and just proceed to mint the pieces you have for fun, right? um
dude. I think organizing of collections too is like really really interesting to me. Like, dude, it's just so dope how you know you can say, hey, this is this work here, that is that work over there. Like, check it out. Like it's all like kind of like programmed in a way because it's like digitally native. Like it's like I've never had that experience before.
and it's just and also to the point, not only are people having collections, to your other point, you as an artist also get the chance to build your own collection, and you get to have an art collection. you know it's like, to me this is the coolest thing, because like when you hear about the art trades that like Picasso did and like Matisse did and all those people did, you're like, oh shit, like that's just like straight up value in painting just being traded in hands. Like, oh, I like that painting, what do you want from mine? And so like even just
Yeah,
the ability for artists um to own pieces. And this is another cool thing, right? You no longer have to worry about fucking storage for your paintings. you know
bro. See, I can only imagine how much of a headache that could be. Um, I don't know if I've done physical prints, but they were
Mhm.
like drop shipped, so I never had to like really store anything.
I
Um,
see.
so I've never dealt with that, but you know, one of my deepest desires is to do some very massive paintings. Um, so I know eventually I'll get there, but I can only imagine like having, like that's why I asked about like the canvases. I'm like, yo, if I want to buy a 6 foot canvas, how would I even do that? Like, so
The bigger if you go big with a canvas, I'll just tell you right now, honestly, you just buy a canvas roll instead of an actual framed canvas. So you
oh,
get
and then they'll like see, this is how much I don't know about the fine art like academic like world of like
Mhm.
creating a lot of this stuff. But yeah,
No,
she's crazy, man. I wanted to ask you though, like as someone who's like been through the system, seen it, like how well. So you remember
mhm.
that like have you ever seen the fear chart where it's like it's like the green, the code orange, like the code red, like and then it's like threat level midnight. Like, are
Maybe.
people in that world like? Is there fear of like AI? Is there fear of like the art that we're seeing now, like Dolly and like Mid Journey, like disrupting
Yeah.
a lot of that?
Oh, dude, they're freaking the fuck out. I'm personally starting a little bit to freak out internally, but for other reasons. But dude, oh, a lot of people are freaking the fuck out because Dolly is out now. Next year's Dolly is going to be more photorealistic, and I guarantee you by the next, the not if not next iteration, the iteration after the next is going to be picture perfect. Like
Bro.
it's evolving way too fast, and so like I'll tell you my gamble. Right? You like my gamble, like you know how Vin Records went out of style and then came back in with like a bang, and like now getting like a nice record is expensive as fuck.
Yeah.
And so my personal bang is, and I don't like using Picasso as an example, right? But Picasso essentially towards the later years of his life decided
Yeah.
to reject all of it and try to paint like a kid because he was bored, right? And then in the fine art world, people will tell you nothing is original, everything's been painted before. We're just, repainting the same things or whatever. And
Yeah.
this to me, this tech provides like an insane bed of just source material that we can just like use for ourselves. Uh, and I'm banking on the artists who decide to paint from AI will I mean personally will further develop their painting like a shit ton, like times more, like 10x more, and also people in like 10 to 20 years will look at it and be like, you're painting that, right? But
Yeah.
in the commercialized sense, it might end a lot of fucking careers. It's like it's the same. I actually watched a video about 3D animation did the same thing to old school animation. Like it just killed a lot of careers. But the interesting thing that happened is, I was talking to, I forget who I was talking to last week, but we talked about this as well. The best 3D animators were the traditional animators who then taught themselves 3D animation because they still got all the classes from 2D animation integrated into their body,
Mm.
right? Their muscle memory, like animation smears, emotion, that sort of thing, like expressiveness,
Yeah.
exaggeration. And then they were the ones that were able to animate, the Disney movies the way they were in comparison to like, the DoorDash ads we see, right?
Nah, facts, bro.
Yeah. And it's like,
Dude.
I mean in terms of concept art, it might kill off, like it might not kill off a lot of people, but like it might reduce the environment background design into like two people who just do paint overs AI, which is not
Ooh.
bad, but it's also kind of scary. um
Yeah. Dude,
it's
I just want to be a prompt engineer.
well, I legitimately think that's possible, and also, you know, as much as AI is perfect, it can never. I realized this when I was comparing a painting done and then an
Mm.
actual physical painting. Like,
Yeah.
as much as photorealistic you can get, I don't think AI will be able to emulate the sort of emotion and like there are certain ways you can do with physical works that
Yeah.
you still can't produce digitally, right? And I
Yeah.
don't, and it just like you'll start experience this when you're painting and you start to see like, oh shit, stuff reflects. You can create washes, but a wash digitally does not have the same variation as a wash done on like a canvas. like the texture you get on the canvas, and then you say, oh, I'm gonna sand that canvas part to remove some of that, and then I'm gonna go back again, and then I'm gonna sand it, and then I'm gonna go back again, and then I'm gonna sand it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the levels of control and then what you're able to achieve are insane, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, I think what interests me the most is like, just like you said, like the people that have that knowledge working with the AI and taking prompts, using them as composition, being able to refine their ideas faster, and then that's kind of like what a lot of what I've been doing is like just literally like getting as many references as I can that are super hyper focused into like
Hmm.
what I'm interested in. And then, dude, I literally had to spend like 3 hours sorting all my Dolly references, but sorting those, looking through them, and then saying, "Yo, this was a great idea. I like the way it looks. Now let me go like edit this or like actually paint this or like you know." It's like just incredible reference, and so it's like it's literally what we've been using Google Images as this whole time.
Exactly.
Like
For real.
this is actually what it's supposed to be. Like,
For real. And it's so perfect for ideation too. Like, I I realized it for I realized it when I put the furniture and the landscape props. I was like, oh shit.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, I need to make
oh,
some furniture.
I recommend it. Like, but it, like the weird thing is, funny enough, AI is losing its magic the more photorealistic it's getting. You know?
Yeah, that's why I always have to put things in my prompts that like how do I say this without giving away all the sauce? Basically, you you need to like you can't just say what you want to see. You have to say what you want to see, and you have to think about the world that it exists in.
Hmm.
You have to think about the time that it may exist. You have to think about the way that you're seeing it. Is it on, because things only recently just started existing on the internet.
Hmm.
Like if you saw if you saw a nice font or something in the 80s,
Hmm.
it was like on a magazine or on a box art or on a letterhead or you know what I'm saying? So like
Hmm.
that's kind of like the way you have to think about it. Like what is the world that this thing I'm trying to actually generate? What does that look like? What does it exist in? When is it? Where is it? Like you kind of like have to get that specific.
Oh, absolutely. And I've noticed that too, where it's like I sometimes it doesn't understand. Like AI is still limited that it doesn't understand what you're trying to do, regardless. Because I was trying to generate Polaroid images today,
Yeah.
and for some reason, because the AI has been trained on a bunch of images of Polaroid that apparently have been put on top of each other. Almost every Polaroid generation that I got had another Polaroid on top of it. Where it was like I'm generating two Polaroids, but they're on top of each other, and it was
It's like
just
a
like,
stack.
yeah, it's literally like I'll send you a pic, I'll send you a pic on Discord right now. It's hilarious because I was like, hold on, like why is this happening? That doesn't make any sense, but it was. And so like there are limitations, but it's also great source material, and the more complex you can get, the more it sort of opens up. Uh, I'm sort of you see me in the group chat. I'm advocating for getting your own Google collab, right? Like people just should like. I mean, AI, Mid Journey's AI, for example, is a bit more trained and is a bit more refined than like other Google collab models, right? But
Yeah.
With Google Collab, you're able to see the iterations that are happening, and then you're able to save them. And then what I found sometimes the iterations of a piece getting to its final form is way more interesting to draw from or to even like draw on than the final AI piece, right? And then having like full control of sizing, and then once you introduce your own training, which is a whole new fucking thing too, right? Because you get like, you can once you reach say over, you probably have over 1,000, over 100 illustrations that you or like drawings that you've done. You can train your own AI on your own illustrations to produce like Roswell inspired works.
Dude, man, I'm like, like basically, I'm working with a dev right now that he's like trying to integrate the actual Dolly, like the API, because you know how they like it's open source or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm basically trying to build that right now for myself. But dude, I really don't. For everything I do know, I don't know shit about coding, web stuff, HTML, like dev stuff. I just have no concept of it. I don't know. I kind of don't want to know, and it's kind of like my willful ignorance there because like it's just another like goose chase that I would have to like like
Yeah,
go
that's
down
fair.
and
It's like expecting an artist to start making their own oil paints now. There's a nice allure to it, but once you actually start to look at how to make it, you're like, oh fuck, I'm not doing it. I'm just gonna get my
nah,
own.
bro. Exactly. Like I'm like, yo, I've learned like graphic design, music, video editing, photography. Like I'm just I'm so like even like audio engineering is like a whole thing in itself. I'm just tired, bro. And now I just want to make stuff with what I know, you know. And it kind
Is
of brings me back to the Blender debate. It's
mhm.
just like my brain is just like, no, you're done. Like, stop.
I mean, you like Blender is a hellhole. Like, is an actual hell. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Like, Blender is both an amazing program, but is also the worst fucking program at the same time.
It's triggering, bro.
It's like, yeah, it just like the way essentially Blender, because it's open source, the way it develops is it develops on the stuff that gets called on the most by the community, and so you'll have shit that breaks because nobody uses it that much, but it might be a really important fucking thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like one of those, and it's like, okay, but Blender is cool to learn, but honestly,
Have
like
you used
people.
Substance?
Substance Painter? No, I've seen videos on it, but it just I like having messed with Blender. After like once you get over the hurdle, like the first hurdle of like holy fuck, the UI is impossible to use,
Yeah.
and like, oh, this is hotkey hell. You
Oh,
realize Blender is like the best bang for your buck for like no bucks. it, it's like
yeah.
you can legitimately achieve cinema quality renders in Blender, in their cycles render. And if you have an RTX card or an M1 chip like your computer, you're able to like legitimately like you'll be able to achieve like realistic Blender like renders. And it's able to fully do that, but you just have to get over the hurdle of like like just Blender is hell. And also with 3D, shit doesn't make sense, bro, right? Where it's like, like how an artist is like, we're intuitive, right? Like, say we're making a sculpture filled with water, we just make the cube and then we dump the water in, done.
Yeah.
Blender, no, you have to like make the cube, then set collisions on the wall, then simulate the water if you want the water to like move in. And you're like, oh my god, why can't I just like, click on this thing and be like, what, add water, please? You know?
Dude, nah, 100%. And you know what's funny? And this kind of brings you back to the AI combo.
Mhm.
Everything that I was learning Blender to do, I was able to do with Dolly.
Wait, what were you trying to learn in Blender that Dolly was able to do? I'm curious.
Dude, basically, I was trying to create um renders of like jewelry pieces I wanted to make
Oh,
because I was talking to this jeweler and he was like, "Yeah, just
that'd be the
like as
design.
long as I can see it, and it's like the best thing they could possibly have is a 3D file because they have exact measurements and shit." He was like, "As long as I can see it, like I can make it." So I literally went on Dolly and like I basically like typed in like the weird jewelry like stuff that I was trying to make. So and it was like, you know, like weird like Studio Ghibli like Jesus pendant.
Mhm.
Like stuff like that. So um I was able to like get is like a shitload of reference, and kind of like tune my taste as to what I even wanted. You know what I
I
mean?
see.
And it's like, dude, this is like the power that Kanye has.
It
Like when
is.
Kanye is like working with his team and he's like, show me 50 variations of this thing. And then like all those people have to go and do that shit and like slave. He could just hop on Dolly
Straight up. Like,
and just be like, I want to see like, you know, every like Japanese girl with blue hair, anime like DVD cover from 1985. And the shit like it'll show you. And
I
it'll
don't
show
know.
you as much as you want to see. Like it's just wild to me, man.
It's it, I I'm excited for it because like the artists, right? Like those who have been doing this for a while, like you and me, like we actually know what to use this tech for, and it's just like yeah, it might kill off like a bunch of jobs, but then it also opens up the opportunity for those who don't who are like, oh, what do I do? Oh, I have to work for this person. No, not anymore. You can do your own thing now with your with AI, right? And it's um that's actually really interesting. I didn't think of feeding AI jewelry at all. I was because I had my own thoughts of sculpting 3D jewelry just to like see how jewelry is done because I'm really interested into like that the what is it like very fine jewelry, right? Like
Yeah,
elegant with like swirls and like like there's a random diagram that means something. Like it's very like very uncharted type jewelry.
yeah, yeah.
And then
You didn't see any of the jewelry stuff that I generated?
I don't think so. I may have been away from my
Dude,
phone, but
my mind was blown. And then I started thinking about use cases for product design just in general. And
the shoes ones were fucking insane. I saw
dude,
those.
shoes, man, like shoes, jewelry. I did some hats, I did plushies. Like I got ideas for like really dope plushies that like look real, like where I could send it to like a manufacturer in China. I'd be like, "Yo, make this," and then they could just make it. Like they send me back like a like a more detailed like line sheet or like CAD or something. But here's the idea: like you can literally see it, and I didn't have to do anything but ask. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting for you. Like I personally, I've been generating a lot of anime shit because I realized I mean, to me, that's the perfect Trojan horse. Um, for like telling people to shut the fuck up about anime not being fine art because like some of the shit I generated, bro, I was like, this looks like anime on crack. It's like, and if an anime character took shrooms and it physically tripped her out instead of just mentally, like her body's morphing and stuff, and it's so interesting.
Ooh, dude,
But
yeah, I gotta see that.
here, I'll send you a pic. And but the other interesting thing that I noticed is like it teaches you about what works and what doesn't, just to the
Mhm.
basic eye. Like fine art teachers will always be like, you know, like you get form, right? Your figure needs to be three-dimensional, right? You need to have good form, good lighting. And here comes this thing that is also able to give you abstracted readable form, but enough to not teach like enough to teach you what how to draw and paint form. But also it's not like your regular fucking portrait, right? It's completely different. And to me it's like, oh, this is perfect for like a painting, right? Because it already looks so painterly that the moment you actually physically paint it and like the random stuff that actually happened with physical paint is to start to take over it just looks very nice. And so
Facts. It's like from that point, it's only gonna get better.
exactly. And like to your point, like with the shoes, bro, I was actually I wanted to ask you, like since you work with the Warner, have you guys started to use any of the AI stuff in your sort of workflow?
So how do I say this?
Did you fire the Illustrator guy?
When I told my boss, he said I had 2 weeks left. No, I'm just playing. Um, so so basically, like, I'm on a team with one other person who is my boss, and we're like kind of like, well, we're like the two youngest people that work in the whole section. So like we're tapped into a certain thing that I don't think a lot of other people
Mm,
are tapped into. So I remember when NFTs were like really popping off crazy, and I was like going to them like, "Yo, we should do this, we should do that." I remember taking them concepts about um, AR merch, shit like that. Like,
mhm,
but sometimes the system is just the system,
mhm,
and I can personally see the wave with my own two eyes,
mhm.
know it's coming, and say, go back to the village and say, "Hey guys, there's a wave coming." But the villagers, they just like they're doing villager shit, so they really don't care until the wave hits.
Yeah.
So it's like I can shout it from the rooftops, this, and that, but
You know, they will come when they will come, you know.
they're doing villager stuff right now.
Yo, it's well, see, the interesting thing to me is like, we're getting a lot of artists who already have established careers, right, in the
Yeah,
business or whatever, and who are coming into the space. So they're seeing the success, rightfully so, but they're still seeing their success from sort of their skills gained from their careers, right? We haven't
yeah,
seen the artists like you and me who were in 10 years have been fucking with AI generated images for 10 fucking years. Like that's a whole new skill set. Also, the like imagine in 10 years when we're the ones who are able to tell what's a fake image and what's not because we've been messing with AI so much that we know like key identifiers, right? That
yeah.
whole stuff like hasn't been accounted for.
Dude, even I just thought about the concept of like, something there having to be some type of designation that tells you whether a product was created with AI or not, or like an art piece was created, or like I can see galleries start to do like, dude, this might be just like peeking into the future, but
Mhm.
I could see galleries being like, this is a non AI gallery.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely, dude. That's already, dude. I'm seeing, dude. I was on like the hashtag Mid Journey, and there was
yeah,
a dude already using not Mid Journey. Like I was like, oh, we already on that wave. Like people already
he said
jumped on that wave. I
not mid journey.
was like,
Say,
damn.
yo, hey guys, this is not mid journey, just so you know.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like okay, this
that's
is
the
it.
first thing I know about your art. Like, you know, it's really important, but I don't know. I've always been the type of person that's like, um, I just want to, I just want to do as much as I can.
Mhm,
So like, even even if it's like looked down upon, or it's like unfavorable in the art world, I just like really see the value in being able to iterate all these ideas just instantly. And I don't have to do them if I don't want to, but it's giving me more options. And I actually found like a whole new like style. I'm gonna send you like a
please.
bunch, but dude, I generated this one thing, and it was on accident because
Mhm.
I put a word in the wrong place. And dude, it showed me this image, and it was like one of the most like beautiful, like resonant things, and it just clicked with me. And sometimes you tap in with that, like me and Terrell call it like the God prompt, where
Mm.
like you stumble upon a prompt that every time you run it,
It's
it
just
creates incredible things. Or, and I have like a God generation that I like to call it, like where whenever I do a variation on that image, fire comes back, like really dope art comes back. So I'm gonna send you a lot of this shit. I think you're gonna really, really like it. But
please.
dude, after like a couple of weeks of using it, I kind of I already feel more confident in my direction of like, because you can really only use things as reference that you've experienced, right?
Mhm.
You've seen. And if you see something and it doesn't make you stop and say, damn, that's dope, it's probably not a reference for you. But that probably, if you just living your life like a normal person
Mhm.
or a normal artist, that probably won't happen to you unless you seek it out.
Mhm.
And even then, let's say you're looking for like, you know, rare Japanese magazines um, from a specific year or something.
Mhm.
You're gonna have to go to the ends of the earth to like track that type of shit down. And like, even when you find a vintage magazine store or something, they only have like two copies. And then it's like, okay, I'm basing my entire art career on these two copies. This is my reference. Like, whereas this is like, oh yeah, like you want to see that? Here's like 1,000 versions of it, you know? Or like, dude, it's so like nerfed right now too. Like when you
It
think about
is.
it,
Oh, it
because I
is.
know they're intentionally like nerfing this shit. Like,
Well,
but
it's that, and it's also like there are limitations already. Where
yeah,
there's stuff you can't generate at all, like certain prompts you can't. Right? Isn't that? Didn't you run
yeah,
into this?
yeah. There's certain prompts you can't generate. You can't do anything with like modern celebrities. Not that I've tried, but it's like says in their terms and conditions.
See,
You
that's the
can't
thing. It's just like,
you can't do anything with violence. Like I tried to do another version of my Kermit the Frog being crucified prompt that I ran on Dolly Mini, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be a banger on Dolly 2. And they were like, yo, you can't do it. Like, it's violence. And I'm like, be a fire piece of art.
yep. Well, yeah, no, somebody made on Twitter made me aware of that problem where it was like AI is sort of trained um, on what we've done culturally. Right. And
Oh,
if a shift happens where everybody starts using it and we still have these limitations, then what gets distilled somewhat through culture is now controlled by like three corporations, and one of them is like Google, you know? Because it's like, oh, you can't generate that, you can't generate that. And then 50 years of not generating stuff, it's now forgotten completely. Nobody's generating it. And like, you
dude,
know,
someone's definitely gonna make like a libertarian Dolly.
oh, dude, I'm waiting for the fork. I'm legitimately waiting for the Dali 2 fork. You know,
Yeah,
like,
someone's definitely gonna like go in and be like, yeah, don't tread on me. Like,
well, yeah, it's like the whole thing. Remember? Do you remember the whole Anish Kapoor? I'm a trademark this black, and
oh yeah,
then
yeah, yeah, I do.
they just like they're like, all right, well, fuck you then. We made a stronger black, and guess what? You're the only one who's not allowed to buy it.
Dude, that is why I love the art world, bro, because it's just so fucking funny, bro.
Yeah, we're extremely responsive. It's like, especially if somebody tells us not to do something for no valid reason, we will do it. It's like,
like like literally, bro.
yeah. Well, it's like one funny thing to end on. Like, did you hear about the whole Fidenza shit? Like,
Nah.
so apparently the dude who made Fidenzas tried to is copywriting the name fucking Fidenza.
Oh wow.
And so he's taken down a bunch of projects with the name in it. And
Oh
like
hey.
the problem is Fidenza is the name of a fucking city. You can't like how the fuck are you gonna trademark a name of a fucking city that's not even fucking in your own country? It's an you know?
That's crazy,
And
bro.
so like the response to that is everybody's like, all right, we're gonna make our own Fidenzas. And it was just like a hilarious response from artists. Yeah, it's like fuck you. It's like, what do you mean?
Bro, that is so funny, bro. Like, shout out to Tyler Hobbs, man. I mean, if I made that amount of money off an arbitrary city name from a country of which I don't live, I don't know what I'd be doing. I'd be acting crazy too, bro.
I'll
But
just copyright the word NFTs. Fuck it.
nah, bro, that's so funny. Like he said, yeah, all this Fidenza stuff got to stop, and they were like, bet.
Yeah, it's just like
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's I mean, yeah, artists were just extremely responsive to shit, you know.
yeah, totally. And then on the other end of that spectrum too, of like a lot of artists just are very like narcissistic and like
Mm,
just very like they take like themselves and their work so seriously
mm,
as if this entire planet won't be like swallowed by the sun one day. Like, you know what I mean? And like nothing will matter. Like,
yeah, I
and it's funny, bro. People are like, they get so it's like serious, like, oh nah, you can't use that color. That's my color. It's like, all right, man.
I couldn't agree more. Like I view every like I view the art world and like you know like to use another anime reference like you know like the dude who's like I punched 100 logs. I
Yeah,
devoted myself to this craft. Like you know I view all artists as should be like that. But then I don't like it when artists like gloat at all for some reason.
yeah,
It's just like to me it's like because like it's well, like it's not a privilege to be making art because at some points art making art becomes somewhat hard, right? But
yeah,
there's like certain power in being in for us being able to do what we do, right? And it's like I just to me it's like I don't like to gloat, and it's just like all this sort of art. It's like me, right?
dude.
Even
I just don't feel the need to.
right? It's like why? Like you know, it's like yeah, you flex on some of your friends because you know friends flex on each other, you know, or like there's nothing wrong with flexing in the opportune moment, right? Like
Yeah,
that's but it's like that whole like I'm the best. It's like no, yeah, it's like that's what I remember we were having this conversation in like in the group chat, and we went in an argument about why we use the term goat, right? And after that, I was like, I'm gonna stop using that term because people were like, because to me, I was like, okay, apparently, and it's like this is true from all of art Twitter. I've noticed people cannot differentiate between calling somebody the goat for like support as a friend and
yeah.
actually calling them the goat. You know?
Oh yeah. It's. I mean, dude, I could. I'll put it like this, bro. If I have a really good waiter, he's the goat. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
if someone makes a sandwich or something, and like they just kill that shit, it's like, yo, you the goat. Like, it's just a
Exactly.
part of like the language. Like, it's like a colloquialism at this point. It's like, but I feel
Exactly.
like only someone who's like, really narcissistic would be offended by you saying someone else was the goat. Like,
Right. Well, it's like yeah, and it's like it's also I find it weird where it's like where you tell an artist you're growing or like if you tell an artist you're in the process of becoming, You
Yeah.
know, like funny enough, everybody called Scratch the art villain, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess Scratch is an art villain. And I was like, okay, I don't like. I'm not personally not a fan of art critiques over Twitter because it's like 250 characters. Like, what the fuck are you gonna say, right?
Yeah.
And then I submitted one work off. Like I was just like stoned one morning. I was like, you know what, fuck it, might as well. Like if he's gonna rip me a new one, might as well. Like it's fucking Twitter. Who cares?
Yeah.
And like his whole critique was like, oh, it's like, okay, I look forward to your process. Like you're in the process of becoming. Right. And I was like, hell yeah. Like that's what I'm looking for. And it's like, I had submitted an old piece. So everything that he said, I had already started to work on. So it was like a
Yeah.
little bit, it was more validation. I was like, oh, okay, I understand. I'm going towards the right path. Right. But it's like, you say that to some artists on Twitter. It's like I even see it where it's like you tell somebody like, "Oh, that's good," but like you can do better or stuff, and like people just get so defensive sometimes, and you're like, "Hold on, like there's nothing wrong with saying that you can get better. Like the idea or like the whole one of the traits of a great artist, right, is that he always pursues to get better. Like that's in every
Facts.
anime arc ever, right? Like the
Yeah.
master
Right.
like the master does not stop punching the tree when he gets like 70 years old. He still fucking punches the fucking tree to teach the other people, and then he learns like a new technique or some shit, right? But it's like it's just to
Nah,
me it was
fact.
right.
And I think scrap that shit was genius, man, because it actually opened up an art dialogue. Because I feel like a lot of artists on Twitter are just like, they're just really there for like likes and retweets. But
Mhm.
he opened up like an actual art dialogue that I thoroughly enjoyed. And the funniest thing is like people were getting offended, and people were getting offended on behalf of other people, but those people asked for the critiques. So it's just like you guys are silly, man. Like,
It's true. And it's like yeah, and also you can't go to Twitter for art critiques and then complain. It's Twitter. It's
yeah,
not a it's like I understand like if you're in an art critique in university and somebody's being harsh, you can tell because y- like you can give a bad critique. Like that's not a you know that's a thing. But also like people just I've realized people uphold like what people say on social media so much to where it's like like you probably saw that tweet that was trending like 2 days ago where it was like nobody supports you more than the homie Twitter you don't know, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
it's like on the opposite side, like nobody hurts you more than the homie you don't know on Twitter, right? Like it's just like one bad tweet and you're like fuck you, like oh, what the hell, you don't know this art, or like your friends will jump on it and shit, and it's like it's just I look at it, I'm like hopefully as people continue down the path of being artists, they learn that because like or at least like that's one aspect that is really good in university
Yeah,
is the critique where it's like it can get boring after 3 hours of hearing everybody talk about paintings and oh I like the colors, these mean this, but like having you know a class like literally just like stare intently as you at your work as if they're a viewer and then immediately give you feedback, and you're in a painting class so there's no like I like the color. It's just like it's more direct, right? Where somebody's like, "Oh,
yeah,
I don't think that's working," or like, at least in my university, like, "Hey, you can't paint that. That's pretty problematic," and shit like that. People
yeah.
sort of people need that in the space because and like people need I like that's one of the things that surprised me. Where I was like, "Oh, Scratch's critique is actually pretty valid. I don't understand why people call him the art villain. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This is normal. Like, this is what I would get in university. Like legit, what he says is like the shit you would get in university. I was like, oh, this is pretty helpful, you know, and it's somewhat needed because again, we function in a space like you said that's for likes and retweets, and so like likes get to people's heads, and it's like we forget we function in an algorithm where like likes are nice, but likes don't validate a lot of skill or progress in that sense.
Dude,
Um,
it's like a really like weird metric because and I kind of feel the same way about like the way that the music industry counts
mhm.
streams and they count like playlists. It's like a weird metric because if you take like a classic body of work, like Purple Rain, right? If Purple Rain, if they had stream counting when Purple Rain was out, and every time someone listened to a song on that album, it was counted, it would have billions and fucking billions of streams. Like,
Straight up.
like
Yeah. Or like
it.
Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah, bro, we're talking like trillions, literally trillions of streams if you were counting streams in that time. But it's like a weird metric that exists only for today because that's what we've that's basically like the thing we can look at to uh infer value upon things on the internet. You know what I mean? When it's like, is that really the value? Like, it all comes down to that one number.
Yeah. And well,
Whereas like
because
Purple Rain and like Thriller was about like cultural impact, you know?
it was, it was because like uh, it was. I realized it. I sort of realized this when I was watching a video and somebody said somebody can be famous and live very well as a musician and only be known in New York. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, right? Because like, yeah, you can live very well and all that stuff, but like the measurement of success, I was like, what happened to sort of like the actual access to the international community and all that? And when you look, and then I remember you sending the pictures of Michael Jackson, like that crowd outside his fucking hotel room.
Yeah. Like
That
that doesn't happen anymore.
that doesn't like that really doesn't, right? And it's just like, I mean, like I don't think it would be questionable to say if Michael Jackson, if they retroactively counted his, yeah, oh, he would bypass, like you said, trillions, right? And then the fact that he's still actively going to this day, right? That his streams are starting to get counted now, and he's getting numbers too. It's just like, well, hold on. How do you see the whole stream things evolving? Since you're like tapped into like the whole music side as well.
Um Honestly, I don't know because it's like different tools were invented for different purposes.
Mm,
So if you take it back, like why was the radio invented? The radio was first invented to like deliver information, right?
mhm.
Then it became like, oh, we can make stations. Cool. We can actually do like, have you ever heard of like War of the Worlds? Like,
Like radio plays.
yeah, like radio plays, like,
If
and then we
you,
can play music and like as many people can hear this as possible. Like, that's the intent. And it was like, okay, cool. We got a whole city locked down. You know, Beach Boys. Like, everybody's about to hear this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, boom, they want to hear it. And then we can sell ads. But I think the whole streaming thing was invented as a reaction
mhm,
to people leaking and pirating music. So
I see.
it was almost like a band-aid
Mhm,
situation, but it's kind of like now that it's here, I don't know where it's going. And honestly, I think people that work in the music industry
mhm.
that they're I'm really like trying not to get in trouble. Like I'm trying like not to say like some crazy shit that I really like want to say, but um basically I think that as long as people can use those streams to justify their salaries and they can use those streams to say, "Hey, we got 1 million streams." It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, I agree, and the only worrying thing to me is if streams become so popular, right? Like, well, they already are popular, but like in the sense of like they become one of the only units of which they already have become the only unit of measurement of success because people don't usually count. People now usually count more streams than they do like record sales and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It
And
all
like they
Mhm.
count like a certain amount of streams is equal to
The
one
record.
album.
I
Yeah.
see. And
Equivalent units.
and then like that also, like the question then would be, right, like what happens to the culturally important works that don't get as much streams but should be held in high regard, but now they won't because they don't get that much streams, right? And so it's that's a little bit what worries me because it's like I remember like everybody was like talking like that Kendrick album didn't sell that well. And I was like, so it's a pretty good fucking album, you know? And
Yeah.
then in that sense of like, are we really measuring the success of certain albums? Like again, like based on the streams, and then if that's now becoming the only way, like what happens to the artists, right? Because like, I, if we're moving, also like you have to be really good to sustain yourself as a musician for a long period of time, right? And how do you do that if the one sort of measure of success, at least, is a counter, right? And now we also have algorithms at play in that. I would imagine. I don't know. Like I imagine like algorithms are at play already in music, like
Oh,
streaming, right?
he- heavily, heavily.
So like there's already like hidden hands at play, and so what happens when the hidden hands, you know, accelerate or like I don't what's the word I'm looking for? Further induce? No. I don't know, just like expand their usage, right? And their power over streams, you know? I would say.
I think the
Yeah.
music industry right now is just
Mhm.
it keeps putting itself further into a corner.
I see.
And really, I don't. They're just always reactionary. They're always reactionary.
Mhm.
They're never being proactive. They should have been the ones championing NFT technology as it relates to art. They really should have been the ones championing digital music first,
Mhm.
but it's like iTunes was a reaction. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then Spotify was a reaction. Like, they just
That's
they,
true.
they don't know how to be proactive. And I think what you see now is like it's like a very old industry. It has its roots. They're making a lot of money. And the one thing I hate when people say is like, there's no money left in music. It's like, nah, it's like there's a lot of money in it, but this person taking 5%, this person taking
Yeah.
15%, that person taking 10%. Then you got to pay the lawyer. Then you got to pay the distribution people. And then if you sign a publishing deal, then it's like you're not going to get anything for like 5 years. So it's like,
Damn.
it's just, it's
What
just
the
like,
fuck?
it's really like, I, I saw this video the other day and it was like saying like, what happened to all the real artists? Like, why is so much music so disposable?
Mhm.
It's like, it's kind of like the play ball thing where like, yeah, the label will sign you if you have a lot of followers, but
Mhm.
they're not gonna they're not gonna go hard for you unless you're like on their program, like which means you gotta be doing the latest TikTok dance.
Yeah.
If the marketing people come to you and they're like, okay, we have an idea to create this viral moment, and you say no, you say no, they're gonna be like, okay, this person doesn't want to win. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Selfish shit. Like, but if you can have my best advice would be like, and this is kind of true for regular art now too, like
Mhm.
visual art. But if you can have real people behind what you do,
Mhm.
meaning people that your work resonates emotionally with them, they're behind what you do, they support it, just rock with them.
Mhm.
Keep delivering things for them and grow it over time. Because the faster someone gets famous, like you remember the yodeling kid?
Mhm.
We signed him
Wait, for real?
to Warner. Yes, bro.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Wait, didn't he drop like a Christmas album or some shit?
bro, yes, bro. Like, he, he got we signed him, bro. Like, it's crazy. Like, and because he went viral. Like, but it's like we haven't heard anything from bro in like a long time. Um, but I think his name's Mason, but shout out to Mason. But it's like someone could just go viral, get famous, do all that stuff, but if people learn about you quickly, they can forget about you quickly. So
Exactly.
it's important to just build that shit over time. And it's like, it's no faking that. It's no shortcut to that. So it's better to have like, you know, 10,000 ride or die followers
Mhm.
than like a million people who they followed you because you were on their explore page. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. No, exactly. Right. And also, like, it's like like the Tinker Hatfield, I think his name is, right? Where it's like
Yeah,
that dude isn't in the spotlight that much, but he's the one that's been guiding this like sneaker design for so fucking long. Like his hand is almost everywhere, right? Or at least like his designs now. It's like I've inspired so many that you're like, damn, okay. And so,
definitely.
right, in that sense, where it's like you said, like if people get to know, if people find out about you quickly, they can forget about you quickly as well. Right? It's sure that is. I think that's the perfect place to end. It's actually,
Yeah, bro. We've been talking a lot of shit.
yeah, it's you. I have a recording of an hour and 56 minutes.
Oh my god.
We've been
Oh my.
talking for 2 hours.
If anyone, if anyone listens to this whole thing, bro, nah, that's lit though.
Like, dude, this was super fun. I legitimately enjoyed it.
Yeah. Let's talk again soon. I just want to show you all this art and get your opinion on it. So we'll talk again soon.
Oh hell yeah, hell yeah! And to those listening, Rozwell's Twitter, and his foundation links and all the important stuff is in the description. Go follow him. Go bid on some art. Um, go interact with him on Twitter.
Do it. Say what up.
Dude,
I'm
do you
just a
have?
chill guy with a computer, man. That's it, bro.
Thank you, sir, for coming. This was super fun. And to those listening, I will see you guys in the next artist talk. Bye.